Tatsuro Taira may very well be the next flyweight champion of the world. Weston Wilson managed to pull off a huge upset, submitting Sergey. Brady Heastan versus Garrett Armfield was an absolute barn burner of a fight, and so much more. Welcome everybody back to another Fight Night review, where we recap and review the most recent fight night, talking about all the things I thought were interesting and noteworthy. Keep in mind, we will not be reviewing each and every single fight, as that would make the video a little bit long. But I do thank each and every single fighter that fought on Saturday night, or UFC Fight Night Perez versus Taira. And I would also quickly like to apologize for this video being late. It is going up Wednesday. It was actually supposed to go up Monday and or Tuesday. However, I should have a video for you Friday. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the main topic of today's video, Tatsuro Taira. Unfortunately, the fight between Taira and Perez would end in injury. In round 1, Taira and Perez would stand up and trade strikes, where Perez would have the slight advantage in strikes landed. However, Taira would land strikes of his own. Perez managed to actually take down Taira, but Taira managed to stand up almost instantly. After the stand up, the two would kind of just circle each other and throw a few punches. Round 2, Taira and Perez would exchange some strikes on the feet. Perez would land some and Taira would land some. Eventually, Taira would get close and grapple and successfully take down Perez. He would get back mount and secure a body triangle, and Taira started to do this crazy, weird lean back motion in order to take down Perez. But Perez would stay standing on his feet. And I had never seen a takedown like this. You could see in this photo, Taira has the right arm of Perez pulling it across his body, and at the same time using his legs to kind of leverage and try to take down Perez. And it was during this kind of takedown that Perez would unfortunately hurt his knee. This would cause Taira to be declared the winner by TKO. Now, I hate when fights end in injury. I don't think the fans win, and I don't think the fighters win. And I wish Perez a speedy recovery. However, for this video, I really want to focus on Tatsuro Taira. What we seen from Taira was a very impressive young man who was pulling techniques out that I rarely see in the octagon. And in fact, I have never seen that kind of takedown before. His grappling is absolutely phenomenal and next level, and his striking is fairly decent. He can outbox at a distance, and he could even clinch up close. He is a legitimate contender. He beat the number 5 ranked Perez, who is no easy fight. He was able to have the slight advantage on the feet against Perez and a massive advantage on the ground. Taira has some of the highest fight IQ I have ever seen, and he is somebody that is able to mix up and utilize all his tools. Taira is only 24 years of age, and he shows so much skill. Skill far beyond what most fighters are showing at his age. And just with a little bit more experience and a little bit more growth and perhaps a few more fights before he fights for the title, I think he would completely evolve as a fighter. Taira proved to us on Saturday night that he is the real deal. He now advances to 16-0 as a professional fighter. And to dominate the number 5 ranked flyweight in the world, Alex Perez, at 24 years old, is insane. Perez is a veteran of the sport and has been around for some time. He has fought the best of the best in the flyweight division. And now that Taira is 16-0, I'm pretty sure his next fight will be for a title. And if it's not a title fight, I assume it'll be a big fight with somebody who's higher up in the ranks, like Brendan Moreno. And in my opinion, a fight between him and Brendan Moreno would be really good. And the winner of that fight would get Pantoja, or at least that's what I'm thinking. But who honestly knows what's going to happen next for Tatsuro Taira after his win over Alex Perez. Whatever happens next, I will be watching and rooting for this young man. This kid has 6 straight wins in the UFC, and has essentially dominated all his opponents since he started. Whether he's outstriking his opponents, or using super devastating ground and pound, or pulling off slick submissions, like I said, Taira can genuinely do it all. And I genuinely think Taira is going to be very far and possibly be champion by the end of the year. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the other fights that happened as well on that fight night. The first fight was Ezekiel Costa versus Shailin Nordebeka. This fight was the definition of it's not over till it's over. Round 1, Nordebeka would essentially shoot a takedown very early and manage to take down Costa. Costa would manage to stand up, but Nordebeka would essentially put him right back on the mat attempt a submission and unfortunately not get it, and he would just control Costa with his wrestling. Going into the second round, it was all over the place. Both fighters had control of each other for equal amounts of time. This round was heavily wrestling based, and these fighters were constantly changing positions. This was a very close round, and in my opinion, there was no clear winner of it. However, going into round 3, I honestly didn't know what to expect, but you can tell going into the third round, Norbecke was a little tired. Norbecke went to go shoot a takedown pretty early. This takedown was stuffed by Costa. Costa was able to control Norbecke on the ground for a little, and Norbecke would attempt to explode and bridge out. But this would allow Costa to take his back. And once Costa took his back, the fight was over and Costa would win by rear naked choke. Costa looked really good that night, and although he is only 2 wins and 2 losses in his last 4 fights now, he looks much better and I can't wait to see more of him. Jacob Sergey versus Weston Wilson. This was probably the biggest upset of the night. I believe Weston Wilson was a big underdog at plus 280 and Sergey was a huge favorite at minus 355. And in the beginning of the fight, it looked like the odds makers were right. Sergey came out with some huge bombs and actually tagged Weston Wilson. This caused Weston Wilson to start grappling. Weston Wilson would jump a guillotine while they were on the ground, but Sergey managed to escape. Weston Wilson throws up a triangle and attempts to lock it in, and he locks it in pretty good. And in order to escape this, Sergey slams him to the ground, but he only goes further into the triangle choke. This caused Weston Wilson to win via submission in the first round by armbar triangle. Congratulations to Weston Wilson on pulling off a huge upset against an absolutely scary guy like Sergey. The next fight was Carly Judice versus Gabriela Fernandez. This fight was an absolute slugfest. For 3 entire rounds, these ladies standed and traded with each other, and neither one of them gave an inch. It was a very close fight in my opinion. However, the fight did end in a little bit of a controversy as Gabriela would go on to win by split decision. The first round was all striking. Judice landing the more cleaner technical shots against Fernandez, and Fernandez landing the more heavy damaging shots against Judice. The strikes were semi-close, with Judice only landing 20 more strikes than Fernandez. In round 2, Judice would land the more technical and clean shots again, and Fernandez would land the more damaging heavy punches. And both women would manage to take each other down and control each other for about an equal amount of time. And the fight didn't stay on the ground too long. Going into round 3, it was more of the same. Judice landing the more clean and technical punches, and Gabriela Fernandez would land the more heavy punches. However, this time Judice would heavily outland Fernandez with a total of 82 shots to 32. But Fernandez would actually go on to win this fight by split decision. And this upset a lot of people because many people believe Carly Judice was robbed and won that fight. But what I think happened is that since Gabriela Fernandez was landing the heavy, more damaging punches, that's what probably won her rounds 1 and 2, since the striking numbers were a little bit closer. And round 3, in my opinion, was clearly Judice. And even if you look at it side by side after the fight, you could tell that Judice had a lot more damage than Fernandez. I think this fight definitely came down to the first 2 rounds, and it probably came down to who was landing the more heavy damaging punches, and I think that was Gabriela Fernandez. Keep in mind, I'm not a judge, I did not score this fight, this is just how I think the judges probably seen it. Moving into what I thought was personally the fight of the night. Brady Hiestand versus Garrett Armsfield. Round 1. Most of the strikes would take place on the ground. However, when the fight was standing in the first round, Armsfield definitely had a huge advantage. However, the fight wouldn't stay standing long as Hiestand would initiate a takedown, but be caught in an armbar, and he would manage to escape this armbar. Hiestand would attempt a submission of his own with the guillotine while they were on the ground, but Armsfield would manage to stand back up. Armsfield would again get taken down by Hiestand. Hiestand would kind of lock in the body triangle and control the rest of the fight for like the last minute. Round 2, Armsfield would land a nasty right hand and jab that would sit down Hiestand, and it looked genuinely like the fight was over and he was out. Armsfield would follow Hiestand down to the ground where they would get tangled up. Armsfield would attempt to control Hiestand on the ground, but Hiestand would bridge and explode explode out and escape. And then it was Heestand who then took down Armsfield. And once they were on the ground, Heestand kind of controlled about a minute of the fight to about the last 40 seconds, where the fight would be standing and both fighters would exchange some punches at the end, but nothing really much else would happen that round. Round 3, Heestand and Armsfield would exchange some strikes on the feet, which leads to some grappling, where Heestand took down Armsfield, managed to get his back, managed to kind of lock in a body triangle. From the body triangle, Heestand would attempt a rear naked choke. Armsfield would fall back, falling deeper into this rear naked choke, and Heestand would go on to win this fight by submission. Heestand won the fight, and I think he will go very far in the bantamweight division. And to be honest, with 3 straight wins, in my opinion, he looked incredible against Armsfield, who is a great fighter. And this is a very bold prediction, but I think Brady Heestand is about to go on a title run. But we'll see what's next for him. And that's really all I have for you guys today. I hope you did enjoy the video. I kind of don't like the way the video turned out, breaking it down round by round and stuff like that, but let me know what you guys think. We'll see how the video does. If it does well, I'll make more of them, and if not, I have other ideas how we can make future type content, or at least for when it comes to, you know, fight night videos essentially. Anyways, if you did enjoy, please be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, as it really does help the channel grow. I love all of you. I hope to see you back here in the next one. Peace out, have a good one, and good night, everybody. Or good evening, or good morning, or whatever it is for you. See ya.